Aiden Cole didn't believe in signs. Not anymore. Not since the fire. Not since the hospital visit that ended with an empty passenger seat and a little boy too quiet for his age. But that day, as rain pelted the windshield and Lucas snored softly in the back seat, something tugged at him. A feeling, like fate was holding its breath. The countryside road was nearly swallowed by the downpour, the trees on either side bending under the weight of the storm. Aiden squinted through the wipers, and that's when he saw her. A figure, alone, barefoot, drenched, wearing a wedding dress. He slowed the truck, instinct overriding logic. The woman didn't run, didn't wave, just turned as the truck pulled up beside her, strands of soaked brown hair clinging to her pale cheeks. She looked like a ghost, but her eyes were alive, darting to the forest, as if afraid someone was still chasing her. Aiden rolled down the window. "You okay?" She tried to speak, then staggered. He caught her just before she collapsed into the mud. The old farmhouse was quiet by the time she stirred. She blinked, disoriented, lying on a makeshift cot in the living room. A warm blanket, a mug of tea beside her. The fire crackled low in the hearth. Lucas peeked around the corner, his eyes wide. He whispered, "Dad, is she a princess?" Aiden hushed him gently. When the woman finally sat up, she startled, clutching the blanket around her. Her fingers trembled. Not from cold, from memory. Aiden knelt across from her, calm but firm. "You fainted. Middle of the road. Wedding dress. No shoes. You want to tell me what's going on?" She hesitated, measured his face, then said softly, "My name is Elena Harper. I ran from my wedding. A beat. And I can't go back." She looked down. A burn scar peeked from beneath her damp gown's neckline. Old, faded, but real. "I'm not asking questions tonight," Aiden said. "But I've got a dry shirt, and there's stew on the stove. You're safe here." She looked up at him like she didn't quite believe it. That night, as Lucas curled into bed with his stuffed dinosaur, he whispered, "She's sad, Dad. Like you." Aiden nodded. "She's been through something." Lucas clutched his dinosaur tighter. "Then maybe we should be her home too?" Aiden didn't answer. But downstairs, he watched as Elena gently folded the borrowed shirt, cleaned her plate, and stood at the window watching the storm, but never her reflection. The next morning, she was already sweeping the porch, hair braided, bare feet on the wood, not a word about leaving. But Aiden noticed something else. Her hands rough, not pampered, calloused, skilled. Not the hands of a bride groomed for luxury. She wasn't who she said she was, but she was someone. And whoever she was scared. The rain stopped, but the quiet wasn't comforting. The next morning brought a silver fog that clung to the fields outside like a secret that refused to lift. Aiden sipped his coffee, standing by the window, eyes on the woman walking barefoot through the damp grass. Elena. She moved like she belonged here, calm, measured, almost too at ease for someone who had just fled a wedding. She had borrowed a pair of jeans and an old flannel shirt from a box marked Megan in the attic, his late wife's clothes. That detail made something in his chest twist, but he didn't stop her. Lucas had already taken to her. She made him laugh. She helped with breakfast. She showed him how to tie knots, told him stories about traveling, fixing fences, patching wounds. All things a runaway bride shouldn't know. And yet she did. By the afternoon, the truth began to flicker in Aiden's gut like an ember trying to spark. He was fixing a latch on the barn door when he spotted her with the toolbox, kneeling in the dirt. She picked out the right wrench without hesitation, adjusted the hinge, and reset the bolt faster than most of the men he used to work with on rescue teams. "You've done that before," he said, stepping closer. She paused, wiped her brow, and replied with a half smile. "Grew up around tools. My father had a repair shop." "A beat. But you said you were raised in New York." lived in penthouses. Another pause. Her eyes held his for a moment too long. We moved around. He let it slide, but her voice was practiced, the way she said things, like she was choosing the version of herself she wanted him to see. And the burn scar on her back? That didn't belong in the life she'd described. Neither did the way she flinched when a car backfired down the road. That night, Lucas fell asleep on the couch mid-story. Elena tucked a blanket around him with a gentleness Aiden hadn't seen since Megan. He stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "You're good with him." She didn't turn. "He's easy to love." Aiden's voice was low. "So why lie?" She froze. "I don't know what you're running from, Elena, but I've carried a kid out of a burning house. I've looked people in the eyes when they're barely hanging on. And I can tell when someone's trying to hold their story together with tape." She turned, slow and tired. "If I tell you the truth, you won't let me stay." "That's not your call," he replied. "But it's mine to know what I've let into my home, especially around my son." Her jaw tensed. Her hands gripped the back of the couch. "I didn't mean for you to get involved," she whispered. "I wasn't supposed to end up here." "Where were you supposed to go?" She hesitated. "Anywhere but dead." Later that night, Aiden stepped onto the porch, only to find her gone. Panic hit fast. He grabbed a flashlight, heart thudding in his throat. The wind had picked up again, rustling the trees at the edge of the property. He called her name. "Elena." Nothing. Then, from the far end of the pasture, he saw movement. A shadow near the fence line. She was standing there, unmoving, staring toward the woods. When he reached her, he saw the tear streaks on her cheeks. "Elena, I heard something," she said quietly. "I thought they found me." "Who?" She didn't answer, just turned to him with haunted eyes and whispered, "I wasn't supposed to survive this." And suddenly, Aiden realized she wasn't just running from a man or a wedding. She was running from something that wanted her gone. Aiden barely slept. Every sound outside the house made him sit up straighter. Every creak in the floorboards had him checking on Lucas. But it wasn't fear that kept him awake. It was the weight of the unknown, sitting across from him in a borrowed flannel shirt. Elena Harper. If that was even her real name. He brewed coffee just past sunrise and found her already in the kitchen, staring at the small radio perched on the shelf. Her fingers were white-knuckled around the handle of a chipped mug, untouched. She didn't greet him, just nodded toward the radio. "Listen." Aiden turned up the volume. And in this morning's top story, a tragic discovery. Authorities have identified the body of a young woman found last night in the Willow River. She was wearing a wedding dress and is believed to be the missing bride from the Ashbourne Estate wedding, canceled just days ago after a dramatic disappearance. Police suspect foul play. Aiden's eyes flicked to her. She stood frozen, breathing shallow. Lips parted like her lungs forgot how to work. Then she whispered, "That's not me." Aiden stared at her. "What?" "They think it Island. That's the plan. But it's not me." She sat down slowly, her whole body trembling as if her truth had finally caught up to her. "I wasn't the bride. I was the decoy." Elena's voice cracked as she explained it. She'd been hired to pose as the bride, to step out of the car, walk through the entrance, wave at the photographers, play the part, until the real heiress could slip away unnoticed. A staged escape from a wedding the woman never wanted, arranged by the billionaire father who saw his daughter as an asset, not a person. "But something went wrong," Elena said. "They told me she ran, that the handoff went fine, but..." She swallowed hard. "I found blood on her scarf, at the place where we were supposed to switch." Aiden felt the chill in his bones crawl deeper. "You think they..." "I know they did. She didn't run. She was killed. I was the distraction. And now someone out there thinks I saw too much. I wasn't supposed to live past that day." Aiden leaned against the counter, arms crossed, heart pounding. "You were meant to disappear," he said. They needed a body, and they picked you. She nodded slowly. They gave me cash, a new phone, told me to vanish. I was supposed to leave town, stay quiet, but I couldn't. I couldn't leave without knowing if she was okay. I went back. That's when they started chasing you. Her eyes glistened. They found out. Someone saw me. And now if that body's been identified as me, it means they think I'm gone. And if they realize I'm not? Aiden's hand clenched at his side. You're not going anywhere, he said. You're safe here. No, she said. No one's safe now. That night, Aiden made a call. Grant Beckett answered on the second ring, his voice still rough with sleep. You only call this late when someone's bleeding or burning. Which is it? Neither. But I need you to come by. Tomorrow. Quietly. A pause. This about the woman in the wedding dress? Aiden's breath caught. What do you know? Grant sighed. Small towns talk. Especially when a soaked bride shows up in the grocery store's security footage 2 days ago before she disappeared again. People are saying she was running from a bad groom. She's running from something worse. Grant's voice turned serious. I'll be there by noon. Later that night, as Aiden watched Elena sleep in the armchair by the fire, he noticed her hand twitching in her dreams, like she was reaching for something she'd never been given. Peace, safety, a future. He couldn't promise her much, but he could promise this. He wasn't going to let her vanish. Not without a fight. Grant Beckett arrived just after noon, wearing his usual look of casual suspicion and a half-buttoned sheriff's jacket. He stepped onto the porch like he was expecting it to creak under secrets, and it did. He spotted Elena through the window before Aiden could explain. That her? He asked, voice low. Aiden gave a single nod. Name's Elena Harper, or at least that's what she goes by. Grant exhaled. She's not the woman they pulled from the river. I know. Grant looked over the fields, toward the tree line just beyond the barn. You sure about her? No, Aiden said plainly. But I'm sure she's scared. I'm sure someone tried to erase her, and I'm sure I'd rather keep her breathing than find her floating down a river. Grant nodded, chewing on the inside of his cheek. All right, he muttered. Then let's start poking the truth and see who bleeds. Inside, Elena sat with Lucas at the kitchen table. She was teaching him how to braid string something simple, calming, quiet. Her hands still trembled now and then. Grant entered slowly, eyes scanning her posture, her face. You don't look like trouble, he said. She met his gaze with surprising steadiness. Looks are deceiving. They always are, he replied, setting a folder down on the table. I pulled what I could from the local PD and news wires. The woman they found in the river is officially listed as Elena Harper. She froze. That's not my real name, she whispered. Grant raised an eyebrow. Then who are you really? She hesitated, then finally spoke. Leah Morgan. I changed it when I took the job. I didn't want to be found. Guess that worked too well. Grant leaned back. You've got about 12 hours before that name hits the National Registry. If the wrong person sees that report and realizes you're not the body they planted, they'll come, she finished. I know. Later that day, Aiden walked the perimeter of the property, fixing broken fencing and checking locks twice. And that's when he saw it. A footprint in the mud. Fresh. Not his. Not Lucas's. He crouched low, scanned the trees. Birds scattered in a burst of silence. A shadow moved just beyond the line of oak. He didn't call out. He backed away slowly, heart pounding like it hadn't in years. By the time he reached the porch, Grant already had his weapon drawn. You saw it too? Aiden asked. I didn't come unarmed, Grant muttered. And I'm not leaving her here alone. Inside. Leah, no. Elena sat beside Lucas, brushing his hair back from his forehead as he read aloud. She looked so normal, so grounded, as if she had nothing to hide. But Aiden knew better. He closed the door behind him and locked it. That night, Elena stepped onto the porch, the same place she'd stood when he first found her. "I should leave," she said quietly. "You and Lucas, you're in danger because of me." Aiden shook his head. "I didn't rescue you to watch you walk back into the fire." Her eyes glistened. "You don't even know who I am. I don't need your past. I've seen the way Lucas smiles when you talk to him, the way you fixed a fence like it held your whole life together, the way you check every door twice before bed." He stepped closer. "You're someone worth protecting." For a long moment, she didn't speak. Then, her voice cracked. "No one's ever said that to me before." Just after midnight, a car engine echoed in the distance. Grant looked up from the living room window, gun resting in his lap. "That's not the wind," he said. Aiden was already on his feet. Out past the barn, a pair of headlights crept slowly down the gravel road, then cut off completely before reaching the gate. Whoever they weren't coming to knock. They were coming to finish what had been started. The house went dark. Grant reached for the fuse box, but the power wasn't tripped. "They cut it," he muttered, peering through the blinds. "They know what they're doing." Aiden's hands moved quickly. He ushered Lucas into the hallway closet, soft blankets, a flashlight, the walkie-talkie Grant had given him an hour earlier, just in case. "Stay here," Aiden whispered. "No matter what you hear, you don't open this door unless it's me." Lucas nodded, eyes wide, but brave. Upstairs, Elena moved like she had done this before. She carried a heavy wrench instead of a weapon, checking windows, pushing a dresser against the back door. Her calm wasn't panic, it was muscle memory. Aiden looked at her. "You were more than just a decoy, weren't you?" She didn't answer. But the burn scar on her back, the way she handled herself, the hidden knowledge, it all added up. "She was my friend," Elena finally said. "The real bride. She trusted me. When I found out what her father planned, I tried to get her out." She looked away. "I failed." Outside, silence pressed against the windows, like a scream waiting to break. Then came the first sound, glass shattering the barn. Grant raised his pistol. "They're testing the edges, looking for a soft way in." "They won't find one," Aiden said, locking the front door and pulling the emergency latch on the storm shutters. The house transformed into a fortress, old, creaky, but strong. Aiden had built this place with his own hands. He knew its bones better than his own, and he knew how to hold the line. Movement flickered at the tree line, 3 figures, crouched, fast, moving like they'd done this before. One headed toward the well, another toward the kitchen window, the third. "Elena, get down!" Grant shouted. Pop, pop, pop. Gunshots split the silence. The kitchen window shattered. Aiden tackled Elena behind the couch. Grant returned fire, forcing the figures back into the trees. Lucas sobbed quietly from the closet, but didn't make a sound. Aiden's heart roared in his chest, like it had in burning buildings years ago. But this time he wasn't rescuing strangers. This time it was his home, his son, this woman. And he wasn't losing anyone again. After a tense, frozen hour, the noise faded. The attackers retreated, knowing law enforcement would arrive soon. Grant stood near the door, breathing heavy, blood running from a graze across his arm. "They'll be back," he said. "Next time, they'll bring more." Elena sat on the floor, her knees pulled to her chest. Not crying, calculating. "I can't keep running," she whispered. "This isn't just about me anymore." She looked at Aiden. "I need to end this." He didn't blink. "How?" She reached into the lining of her borrowed jacket and pulled out a small silver USB drive. "This has everything. Names, transactions, dates. Proof that her death wasn't an accident. It's why they wanted me dead." Aiden stared at the device like it was ticking. "And now it's in my house." At dawn, Grant loaded his wounded arm into a makeshift sling. "I know someone in the State Bureau. Honest guy. If we can get this into his hands, he can make it public. But we'll have to move fast. Elena turned to Aiden. I need to go with him. No, Aiden said without hesitation. You're staying with me. Her eyes searched his. And what if they come back? Then we fight again. A beat of silence passed between them. Heavy and full of things they weren't ready to say. I'm not afraid of dying, she said softly. I am, he replied, but not for me. He glanced toward the hallway, where Lucas was just waking up, where the world was still gentle and warm. I'm afraid of him growing up learning that people disappear when they matter most. Outside, smoke still curled from the barn ruins. But inside the house, a fire of a different kind had started. Not one that burned it belonged. The town diner was empty when Aiden and Elena walked in. It was early morning, barely 6 a.m., but Grant was already there, sipping burnt coffee, a bandage across his arm. The USB drive sat on the table in a worn envelope, the corner bent, like it had been clenched in a fist too many times. You sure about this? Grant asked. No, Elena replied. But I'm done hiding. Grant left with the evidence headed for the city, to meet the one contact he could trust. Elena remained behind. She didn't say it, but Aiden knew why. She didn't want to lead danger toward Grant. Not this time. So she stayed in the mountain house, with Aiden and Lucas. Waiting. The stillness was worse than gunfire. Every creak, every bird call outside made them flinch. Then it happened. A single black SUV pulled up to the tree line. Then another. And another. They're here, Aiden said, pulling Lucas behind him. Go to the basement, same spot as before. Elena didn't move. I won't run again. Aiden's voice was low. I'm not asking you to run. I'm asking you to survive. To Ari. The men didn't knock. They burst through the side, 2 at a time, automatic weapons in hand. Aiden fought the first with a fire poker, striking fast, brutal. Elena ducked a swing, kicked low. She'd been trained once, long ago. But they were outnumbered. Then, just as one of the men raised his rifle at Aiden's head, pop, he dropped, shot clean through the shoulder. Behind him stood Grant, breathless, a second pistol raised. I told you I'd be back, he said. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. More SUVs, but these had badges. The State Bureau had acted faster than anyone expected. The USB drive had worked. Grant's contact had pushed it straight to the top. The news broke online within the hour. The entire scandal was everywhere. Embezzlement, bribery, political ties, and the cover-up of the CEO's daughter's death. Elena stood frozen as the officers cuffed the last of the intruders. It's over, one of them said gently. You're safe now. She didn't believe it until the moment she looked into Aiden's eyes and saw it there. Peace. Real peace. 2 months later, Lucas ran through the orchard behind their house, chasing the wind. Aiden sat on the porch, carving a wooden toy with calloused hands. Elena came out with lemonade, hair tied back, light in her step. You could come with me next week, she said, sitting beside him. To DC? She nodded. They want me to testify. Help make sure it all sticks. I'll be right here when you get back. Elena tilted her head. That's not what I asked. He smiled faintly, heart full. Then yes. Later that evening, she tucked Lucas in, brushing back his hair. You're staying, right? He asked sleepily. She kissed his forehead. As long as you'll have me. He smiled. Good. Dad smiles more when you're here. To Ari. That night, Aiden watched the stars. Elena joined him, wrapping a soft blanket around both their shoulders. I still don't know what happens next, she whispered. You don't have to, he replied. We build it slow, one board at a time. She leaned into him. I never believed in home. Until now. The mountain winds settled. The danger was gone. And, in the cabin built with care, with pain, with healing, something new began. Not just survival. Not just safety. A life. Together.